Today I am celebrating Antony Sammeroff, a man who I first got to meet just online, probably about 20 years ago, a bit less than that, must be about 15 years ago. And it was at a time when the internet was absolutely thriving. Facebook was still in its relative infancy, and I got to know him through a number of very forthright exchanges about different subjects, probably connecting through friends of friends, and really feeling that there was a kindred spirit at the other end of the country, up in Scotland, doing very similar things to what I was doing at that time, holding ceremonies, organising events, supporting people, but also having an absolute fascination for education and for communication. And he had been ravenously consuming the work of Marshall Rosenberg, much like I had, and at that time was interviewing a lot of leading lights in the realms of child psychology, human psychology, and education. And it was through these interviews that I saw him carrying out, as well as many of the conversations that we had, that I really developed a great affinity for the man. And interestingly, we only actually met each other physically, I think it was this year. And it was, as I think a lot of people find when they develop relationships online, it was pleasing. It was just as we had always imagined, or at least just as I'd always imagined. And I'm really grateful for the role that this man now plays in my life. But today I'm really here to celebrate his genius. He is an incredibly perceptive person. He has this Aquarian nature, which is both eccentric and extremely bright, and he is able to get a handle on things, to really deeply understand things in a very unique way. His interviewing techniques, there are lots of people out there who are very smart that do not know how to carry a good interview, and yet his questions were always well prepared, or at least insightful and relevant, and very revealing in the answers that they managed to tease out of the people that he was interviewing. And I've not only had a great admiration for the way that he interacts with other people. Obviously he works as a therapist and a counsellor, and supports people in profound ways through that work. I've also had some counselling with Antony myself, and found him to be incredibly perceptive, deeply empathic, so insightful, with great reflections. I highly recommend him as a counsellor. Now I know that he's discovering bodywork and how profoundly he can help people through that. But he's also someone who has, whenever he encounters a new subject, he just leaps into it to immerse himself in the greatest minds, the greatest thinkers, the most experienced people reading around a subject. And I know that this approach of bodywork is something that he's doing in a similar manner. He's a guy who's dealt with health conditions through the course of his lifetime that he has overcome through profound fasting and other self-healing modalities. I know that he's done at least a couple of 21-day water fasts, which is not something for the faint-hearted. Not that it's actually, once you do it, as traumatic as one might think, but it takes a certain mindset to be willing to go for doing something like that. And I know that he's suffered from eczema in the past, which he almost never deals with anymore. The occasional resurfacing, but very, very occasional and brief. And also other conditions that have niggled him throughout his lifetime, that he has been able to resolve through practices of fasting and being aware of eating, and other things that have really enabled him to enhance his life. Now, Antony online is quite a presence to contend with, and I remember really getting into some very interesting debates with him way back when, way before realizing that text is just not enough to convey enough meaning. It was far too easy to have disagreements, and I remember I took umbrage with him, not umbrage, but I remember feeling a bit like I was smarting at some point, because there was a moment in my life where I decided to leave Facebook because of the way it was being controlled by Zuckerberg, and the way that information was being fed back to secret services, and the way they were manipulating people's information, and all of these different deep reasons for going, no, I cannot use Facebook services anymore. And he said, in a very dismissive way, yeah, close the door on your way out. It's typical of his humour, and close the door behind you as you leave. Typical of his humour, typical of his ability to speak to the point in a very concise way, and yet I needn't have taken it personally. It was just, what I thought about it afterwards was him being, well, look, I'm in here fighting the good fight, and if you're not willing to stay in the ring and try and stay in conversation with people, then you might as well just go. And I respect that opinion, and it's funny because now I'm sheepishly returning to Facebook, because I've found that there are so many people's lives I've been cut out of just because I don't have a presence there. Unfortunately, it's just part of the times that we live in, that people exist online almost more than they do offline. So if you need to meet people, if you want to meet people, then that's the way to do it. Finding out that 3 people had died, people I considered to be relatively close friends, and I had no awareness of their passing, was a shock to the system. So hey, I'm back on Facebook, but I don't think either of us are spending our time in long drawn out debates on there anymore, because there's only so much you can do in the context of a text discussion. But in the meantime, he's been writing books, and one of his most recent books has been selling really well, and is the accumulation of an enormous body of knowledge that he has accrued in recent years through his own health research. And I haven't read it myself, but it seems to be very popular and really going down well. I highly recommend it. I'm sure it's funny. So today I just want to take a moment to celebrate the genius of Antony Sammeroff, which takes many different forms. Not only has he got an incredible skill for communication, I was also surprised when we got to finally meet each other that he's a musician and a really competent pianist with an amazing ear and an almost encyclopedic knowledge of music and film and literature. We had some amazing conversations about famous books and what he thinks of teachers, and oh my goodness, it's just been, I'm really glad that I've still got, hopefully, with him, many years of active discussions to enjoy going ahead. So today I really just wanted to take a moment and commemorate the genius of this man, someone whose unique style and talent is unequivocal and worthy of celebration this side of the grave. So Antony, thank you. The world is a better place with you in it.